In probably what is the biggest game of week 7, we got the Chiefs and the 49ers. Who do you think is going to come out on top and why?
This is going to be the best game of the weekend, in my personal opinion, and I don't really have much to say other than that. I mean, honestly, I think that the 49ers are going to have to bounce back. They don't have a choice. They played a piss poor performance against what looked to be a bad team at the beginning of this season. They found a way to turn it around and become competitive throughout the rest of the year so far in Atlanta. And they just got pretty much embarrassed in Atlanta. They were on the road. They couldn't really get it together, couldn't get into a rhythm. I know it started off good with 2 touchdowns to Ayuk, but for whatever reason, this team just folded. And Atlanta looked to be unstoppable on the offensive side of the ball. So the 49ers defense was suspect, to say the least. Now, Nick Bosa is questionable for a return. If he comes into this game, it's a game changer. I will also note Trent Williams is questionable. If he returns to be the blindside protector of Jimmy, that also changes this entire game. So I'm looking at this and saying this kind of hinders on the availability of two of the best players on this team, and of course the overall mindset that they're going to have to, I guess, snap back into prior to losing to Atlanta. Now, on the Chiefs side, they got a little payback from Buffalo last week, and they got a little bit of a stinging feeling to say, damn, we had that game, and Pat made a mistake, which is very few in terms of total of the season. Hasn't really turned the ball over much. Aside from, it's crazy, kind of critical situations. He turned the ball over to lose the game against the Colts, and then he turned the ball over to lose the game against the Bills. So it's kind of becoming a trending thing. Hopefully he's able to break out of that. But the Chiefs defense has been solid as well this year in spurts. But I will say that the Chiefs are going to win this game. I think that the Chiefs defense is going to have to step it up and go after Jimmy G. I feel like they have the capability and the personnel to limit the offense. Now, I will say if they're unable to slow the run game down with Jeff Wilson, I think that this game could pose to be a very big problem for Kansas City, and that could lead them to fall into 4-3, and the Chargers potentially catapulting into, the division leader spot. But nevertheless, I'm going to go with Kansas City. I think that Patrick Mahomes is the better quarterback in this instance. I think that they have the better offense in this instance. And I also think that they're also going to have a similar chip, just like the 49ers. But because that game was so close, because it was within reach, and because Patrick Mahomes was the sole reason that that game ended up falling out of reach because he threw that late game interception, I think that he is going to have one of those Patrick Mahomes games. I'm not saying he's going to go for 5 touchdowns to 500 yards, but if he were to go for about 350 to 375, 2 to 3 touchdowns, I think they get the run game in order. I think that they get Edwards-Helaire involved, and this team potentially could go and embarrass San Francisco back-to-back weeks. Now, I will go and play devil's advocate once again, like I tend to do in a lot of these predictions, and say that the flip side can also be Jimmy G wakes up. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, that whole offense decides to click, and they completely fuck up Kansas City's mindset and saying, damn, we were this close last week, and now we're getting run off of our own home field this week. Oh, no, actually, San Francisco's home this week. Excuse me. I forgot. So I'm going Kansas City. I think it's going to be a tough one, potentially ending in a game winner. I think it could end up being somewhere along the lines of 35-28 or maybe even 28-24, something around that magnitude. I know that I said that Pat's going to have a good game, but, I wouldn't be surprised if Jimmy combined with Jeff Wilson and Kyle Shanahan, how they run that offense. I think it could be a very, very good game, but I have Kansas City winning in a close one.
Yeah, Kev, I'm really kind of split on this one. I could really see either team winning. I'm going to play devil's advocate in this case against you on this one. I'm actually going to go with the 49ers here. And I think it really just has simply to do with the fact that the 49ers got embarrassed last week. I don't really think that there's any other way to put it. To only put up 14 points on the board against the Falcons was kind of a surprising result. And now that they're coming back home, they have a really big challenge going up against the Chiefs. And I think that they're going to be able to rise to the occasion here. But it's like I said, I think that there's going to be a very good chance that both teams are going to be able to come out on top here. But since I picked the 49ers, I'm going to stick with them. I think the reason why, or the reasons why I should say, that they're going to win this game is that they're going to heavily rely on their defense to slow down Patrick Mahomes and that high-flying Chiefs offense. And I think if you look at the 49ers, I think they're going to take what the Falcons did to them last week, and they're going to apply that to the Chiefs this weekend in owning time of possession. Because when I look at the 49ers last week, the Falcons were able to effectively own that time of possession and essentially did what the 49ers are really good at, being able to run the ball effectively, chewing clock, and not only getting field goals, but getting touchdowns. And I think when I look at the 49ers here, I love what they do with Jeff Wilson out of the backfield. They utilize Deebo Samuel out of the backfield as well. So I think there's going to be a very, very big emphasis on the 49ers running the ball against that Chiefs defense. not because that they're going to be able to just, run 15, 20 yards per carry and they're going to score touchdowns really quick. I think their point of emphasis is the longer that we're just chewing up clock, it means that Patrick Mahomes stays on the sideline and he has to watch the 49ers do what they got to do. And I think that's going to be the winning formula here for the 49ers. I think they're going to rely on Jimmy G at times to really step up and get these third down conversions to extend drives. And then when it comes to their run game, get 3 or 4 yards per carry, be able to move those chains effectively and put points up on the board. I think their biggest challenge, though, is going to come defensively. Just because, look, Patrick Mahomes is definitely one of the MVP considerations 7 weeks into the year. He's definitely played up to it. And this 49ers defense got exposed last week to what I would contend is a inferior team against the Falcons. The Falcons are 3-3. I'll give them their credit there. But I think going into that matchup, I believe that the 49ers were head and shoulders above the Falcons. And I just think they really kind of played down to their competition last week. I don't think that's going to be the case here. I think the 49ers are going to play up or above their competition in this one. And I think they're going to be able to slow down that Chiefs offense enough. I think they're going to focus on slowing down Juju, focus on slowing down Marcus Valdes-Scantling, just because if they're able to hone those guys in when it comes to Patrick looking at options outside of Travis Kelce, I think that'll be a working formula because you look at what the Bills did last week to Marcus Valdes-Scantling. He was a no-show. Didn't have any catches. Juju definitely got most of the targets. And I think the Bills defense kind of let that just be what it is, just because, Marcus can't take the top off of a defense, but they'll let Juju kind of do his thing. And if he makes his yards underneath, 5 to 10 yard routes, so be it. I think the 49ers may kind of let that same thing happen. And as long as those 49ers defenders are able to contend with Travis Kelce, I'm not saying shut him down, but slow him down to maybe only 5-6 catches, maybe 70 to 70 yards receiving. I think that's something that the 49ers can look at and think of as a positive when it's all said and done. And if they're able to force turnovers against Pat, I think that's absolutely crucial. And we saw that last week against the Bills where he had 2 turnovers. He had 2 interceptions. And I think that there's a very good chance that this 49ers defense can do a very similar performance as what the Bills did last week. Because mind you, the 49ers and the Bills basically had the best defense going into those games last week. The Bills did their thing against Patrick and that KC offense. Now we'll see whether or not the 49ers can rise to that same challenge, knowing how good their defense is. And I think that they'll be able to do that. And if they're able to add some pass rushes in there, I think that will serve them well. But man, when it comes to this game, I think it's going to be a nail biter. I think it's going to come down to maybe the last possession or two. But I think when it's all said and done, I'm going to give the edge to the 49ers in this one. I think they'll just squeak by in this one. Very similar to what the Bills did against the Chiefs last week. It's not easy beating KC, and it's very difficult to beat KC in back-to-back weeks. So the 49ers are definitely going to have a full plate here. But I think when it's all said and done, I think the 49ers win this one by the score of, I'm going to say like 21-17. I think that 49ers defense is really going to come up to snuff here. And I think they're going to be able to effectively hold Patrick Mahomes and that offense to under 20 points. That's just how I see it.